Hi, guys. This is PJ here. I wanted to speak to you about something that happened on my check ride back in 2019. A unique situation, something I probably should have refused, but in hindsight, but what I should have done was just said no. But the evening before my check ride, my DPE called me and he said, we're going to have a guest tomorrow on the flight. He's from the FAA. He will be riding with us, and he will be examining me. By the way, he's 6'2" and 250 pounds. So redo your weight and balance, and I'll see you at the airport in the morning. I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem, whatever. I was confident. I was ready to go. So I met him at the airport the next morning. He was there. My DPE was there with myself, my CFI, and the man from the FAA who was examining my DPE. So, we did the oral part of the exam, and I did pretty well. And it went about an hour and a half, and the man from the FAA sat right outside the door and listened to what my DPE was asking me. And I'm sure listening to my answers as well. It went pretty well. A little bit longer than usual, but, no red flags. So we took a break, and I asked if I could take a lunch, and he said, make it quick. It's like, no pressure. So I feverishly got a coffee and, I don't know, maybe a roll or something back then that I wouldn't, do now. But, we got in the airplane, and we started off on the practical part of the check ride. My examiner was next to me. The DPE was next to me. The FAA examiner was in the back seat. Almost right away, I had, a whole bunch of things thrown at me. As I was, taxiing out of the run-up area, there was a private jet parked right next to me who had just started his engines, and I had no idea. I pulled right behind him, and sure enough, the plane rolled from left to right. I'm going, okay, I guess I just failed this test before I even got a foot off the tarmac. Nobody noticed anything, so I kept going. All morning, the wind was out of the south, so I was preparing to depart runway 15. So I taxied via Bravo to 15, and I had the AWOS on the radio the whole time. And as soon as I got to the end of 15, sure enough, the wind changed to 3-3. It was out of the north. So I'm sitting going, okay, so what do I do? So I pulled on the runway, I spun around, went down Bravo, and lined up for a north departure. That's two things that gave me whammies right away. But, that's part of flying, right? So I departed 3-3 and left the pattern to start my cross-country, which was from Dunkirk, New York to someplace in Virginia, I don't recall. But that was the plan I had to do. I expected to go maybe 5 miles and said, okay, that's good, you're done. Well, we went a lot further than that. I planned for 4,500 feet, and it was a hot day. I climbed to 4,500, leveled off, and as I was flying, my DPE says, hey, does this plane always run this hot? And I looked over, and the oil indicator was pegged. It was all the way over on red. I've never seen that before in that airplane, so I was a bit concerned. I had all the extra weight, full throttle. The plane wasn't really climbing that well. So what I do? I pushed the nose over to get some cooling, and I went full rich on the mixture to, of course, get the cooling effect that way. And I was having trouble maintaining altitude. Couldn't get the right power setting. Again, the extra weight, the heat. I was distracted. In those days, I didn't have ForeFlight or an iPad or anything. So, dead reckoning and all done by charts and, northeast, southwest. And as I was struggling with other things, I tuned in the VOR. And when I did, I forgot to identify it. So you push the button so you can hear the audio and you can hear the tones. Well, I didn't do that. So I was, preoccupied. And I lost a couple hundred feet. And I was approaching 300 feet. And before I could recover, I knew it. He said, okay, I'm going to have to disapprove on this portion. I'm like, yeah, great. He said, but we'll continue and do the rest of the check ride if you want to do that. I'm like, yeah, I do. I feel good. Let's go. So the check ride was about, the flight was over 2.5 hours, which is quite a bit more than normal. And let me tell you something, I got put through the ringer. And to add insult to injury, my directional gyro was in-op. So I'm flying without ForeFlight, without a directional gyro, just an old whiskey compass. Yeah. So we did a bunch of fire in the cockpit dives, engine outs. I landed a couple engine outs, few maneuvers, just a whole bunch of things with this guy in the back seat. Making the whole situation really tense for my examiner, and which was making it even more tense for me. So eventually we let him, we landed. I did like a short field or a soft field landing or something, let him out, and we continued the practical. I was doing things I didn't train for. He had me doing slow flight, maintaining throttle at different altitudes, turning, doing maneuvers in slow flight, stuff we just wasn't part of what we trained for really. For the most part. But I did them and I pulled them off again with just a compass. And after a long, exhausting day, we did some more maneuvers. I did steep turns, which he said was the best he's ever seen anybody do. 45 degrees both ways. I didn't lose an inch, and I ended up right on my heading when I got done with the maneuver. And he was really happy about that. That's the only good thing he said the whole time. And other than that, he didn't say a word. So anyways, we landed. We went to my debriefing. My CFI was there. The FAA examiner was there. And my DPE was there, reading me the book on things he thought I needed improvement on. Even though I thought I did pretty well, actually, I passed everything else, no problem. And my CFIs looked at me like, well, what's going on? Why is this guy being so tough on you? Or what did you do? Or, And then he read my CFI a little bit of a riot act because he let me fly with a in-op directional gyro on a check ride. So, the whole thing was very stressful, but, I thought I did pretty well. But yeah, I think he was, he had the pressure of the FAA person standing right there too during the debrief. So anyways, we agreed that he'd let me come back in a couple of days and just do the cross-country portion again, which I did a few nights later. It was getting towards dark, but I made it there on time, and I did it no problem. Identified the VOR, held my altitude, everything I was supposed to do the first time I did very, very well, and we landed, and then he said, hey, great job, and he was like a totally different guy. Totally different. From the time I got in the airplane with him and the time I went home, he was not like the guy who examined me on day one. And I think a lot of that has to do with the FAA person being there. So what's the short of it? What's the moral of the story? Basically, guys, if you get that call before your check ride, say no. It's a lot of stress for everybody. It's unnecessary. I do understand it's not a cop-out. They go, you still need the skills to fly the airplane no matter what the situation is, right? However, it really kind of wasn't really fair because it's something we didn't really plan. It was last minute and the whole mood changed and, so I would just say, no, I'm sorry. Weight and balance isn't going to work out. I want to carry more fuel for my cross country, and you need to find somebody else to do this with. So that's my advice to you. If you do get someone who says, hey, listen, we got a guest tomorrow. Nope. There's only room for me and you. And I want the plane to be at its peak and safe, window of performance. So just thought I'd share that with you. It was a great experience for me. And I just said, hey, thank you for making me a safer pilot. And, 6 years later, I've been flying, a lot and really enjoying it. And I have no regrets. So other than saying, okay. All right, guys, have a good time. Safe flying. And we'll talk to you soon.